Greetings, salutations, and welcome to a little bit of a different retrek. Today, what I'm going to be doing is taking a look at the new Star Trek toy. So this is going to be a bit of an unboxing, bit of a review, be honest, bit of a playing with the toy. So here we go. We have the brand new from Playmates Wrath of Khan figure. And originally when these were announced, they were supposed to come in retro packaging for the movie ones and the TNG ones. But instead we seem to have this unified Star Trek universe packaging, which, you know, I don't have an issue with that. I know some people will have wanted them in the retro packaging. And something about the packaging says this is quite a bit smaller, or at least it looks like that to my eye at the minute. I've not got any of the old packaging to compare it to. I do have one up in the loft, and I will try and bring it down if I do another one of these, just to see. But to me, this looks a lot more compact than the old Playmates packaging that we used to get. One of the cool touches that they've done is the shape of the actual bubble that your action figure comes in. And I think this is supposed to represent a transporter, or that's what comes to my mind anyway. So I feel like that's what they've gone with there. Now, I know some people like to keep these in the packaging. I'm not sure personally that this is the most exciting packaging if that's what you're doing. I think it's perfectly serviceable if you're going to open the toy, you're going to play with the toy, which, spoiler alert, I am going to do later in this video, but I'm not sure. I know people get clamshells and put them inside them, and I don't know. I just don't think that's necessarily the nicest packaging. Like this bit here, this just looks like it's been added on almost. I almost expected that to be like on a tab, like a proof of purchase or something, but it's not. We do get Khan's full name though, which I suppose is nice. And we get the Wrath of Khan, La Colère de Khan, which I'm no good with languages, don't know what language that is. And then we've got these little bullety things. Don't know what they are either. So, not very informative on that, I'm afraid. Packaging itself, then we've got the TOS Enterprise. I don't know if that's going to be different across the different figures, whether we'll have the TNG one, Discovery on there for the other figures in the line, but if that was the case, shouldn't that be the 1701 refit? But then we got some really nice artwork of Ricardo Montalban and his chest, whether real or fictitious as Khan. Turning it over then, you can see here, these are the different figures that seem to have come out on this first wave. So from, they're still branding it Classic Trek. I remember they did that with the toys, and I always hated that. I always thought, you know, it's the original series, leave it as the original series. But yeah, Khan, which is the one we're looking at today. You can also get Admiral Kirk, Captain Spock. From the TNG, you've got the three classic crew members, really. We've got Picard, Riker, Data. And then from Discovery, we've got Saru and Burnham. Interestingly, though, and I think this sort of shows you how long these figures have been sort of in production and everything. This is season 1, Burnham and Saru, so I presume with how long the tooling takes and things like that, that's why we're getting the early versions of those characters rather than the most up-to-date with the season 4 uniforms. There's also a Q code. You see what they did there? Or just a Q code for Q. I don't know what that brings up, so you know, don't flash your camera at this video. There's a nice little blurb here though. In 2063, Earth made its first contact with an alien species, launching the planet's inhabitants. Blah 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 blah. So we get, you know, quite a bit about the formation of Star Trek and everything there. Plus all your usual branding, Playmates. Now, it's wound up back with Playmates now. So at one point, McFarlane were doing Star Trek figures, but we seem to have gone back to Playmates. And I think, historically, I don't know the sales figures, but I think these were the most popular line of Star Trek figures, which is something I sort of wanted to touch on. Because Star Trek figures have never sort of been as ubiquitous as like Star Wars figures or Ninja Turtles or He-Man or whatever. And I think part of that is down to like the nature of Star Trek. A lot of Star Trek is your characters sitting around talking, and there's not a lot of incentive for kids to do that. I suppose you could do landing parties and you could do like shootouts with aliens, but that's not fundamentally what Star Trek's about. So I personally suspect these might appeal more to collectors like myself rather than kids playing with them. Now, I just want to give a trigger warning to anyone who does like to keep their action figures in the boxes. I'm just going to tear this open, so if you want to look away or skip ahead, you can do that now. Oh, there we go. Look, we seem to have I'm assuming that is a stand for Khan. I'm going to take that off screen so I can rip it apart with my teeth, which I don't recommend doing. Don't try that at home. Yeah, that's a little Starfleet Delta shaped stand with a little prong, I presume, for his foot. And then the actual figure, get rid of that transporter thing. Here he is. The various bits are sealed in with little bits of plastic, which I'm going to take these scissors, which I borrowed from my wife, and we're just gonna cut Khan out. You see, I'm not a savage. Like, okay, open the boxes and play with the toys, but I'm not gonna just rag him out and risk injuring him. Come on. Ooh, that were a tough one. Right, so let's get Khan out of here and let's get his accessories out of here as well. Okay. We get quite a few accessories, actually. Okay, that seems to be everything. We'll obviously dispose of these in your recycling bins and everything like that, as collect every other Tuesday, so that'll be with us for a little while. Okay, let's have a look at his accessories first. This is brilliant. I didn't realise what this was looking at it in the packaging because it was halfway turned over, but this is the top, at least, of the Genesis device. It's hollowed out at the back, so I suppose you could paint that if you wanted to, if you wanted to make it look really Genesis-y. So that's his little console that he's got, you know, from hell's heart, I stab at thee, and he presses it all down and all that business. We've got Phaser. I don't remember Khan himself brandishing a phaser in the Wrath of Khan, but I presume this is to make it more so the kids can play with it. Then we've got a little bowl with Sete eels in. We'll see if he holds that in a minute. And then we've got this contraption, which I assume this is meant to represent his little tongs that he uses to get the Sete eels out. Like, oh, give me the Sete eel. I don't remember it being that long in the film, but I suppose what you could also do with that is you could have that as like a handheld weapon. You can whack people with it if you want to do that. So let's have a look at the figure himself. Okay. So first of all, I think he's a pretty good likeness. I mean, the likeness is better than I remember them being on the old figures, so that's pretty good. His outfit looks pretty detailed. Got a little copyright on his back. He's got his one glove on. So I think they've done a good job there. And the thing is, these are priced at $12.99. Which is sort of your cheapest you're going to get any action figures for these days, which is a bit crazy, but that's the way the world is. So you're not going to expect too much detailing. Let's have a look at in terms of articulation then. So his head moves a fair bit. It feels like that's on a ball joint. The problem is that he's got his crazy Monte blonde hair, so you're not going to get a lot of motion out of that, but you can have him a little bit like... fire, damn you. A little bit of that. His arms. Yeah, they move all the way around. So they're on a swivel joint there, but then they've got an up and downy one as well. So you can have him doing all sorts of fun poses. This elbow joint, this looks a little bit dubious, and I've come a cropper with this with toys in the past where I've just bent the arm and it's snapped off, so... Let's see what happens there. Okay. Oh, okay, right. The arm's on a swivel as well, and one of them ball joints, so you can get quite a lot of motion there. And the wrist is on a swivel as well. So, yeah, I think it was just the way his arm was bent in the packaging didn't look quite right. And it's actually a lot less dangerous than I thought it'd be. So, yeah, that's pretty good. His legs, again, they're on these sort of ball joints there. You can see that there. So it gives him a lot of motion. You can almost do the splits. So have a look. And then his knee, same as the arms. And the ankle is same as the wrist. So there's a lot of articulation and everything with him. It feels a little bit loose there. Not sure how he'll do standing up. Let's see. Oh, he's off. But that's why you get your nice little delta to put him on, I suppose. So on his little stand, yeah, he stands up pretty good. See what he does. Can we make him hold this thing? So we'll have that in his hand there. Yeah, we can do that. We hold this bowl. Not so much. Not so much with the bowl. I think that's more of a prop. And then the phaser can, yeah, it can hold the phaser. So we have Khan. Now I'm just going to bring in a couple of other figures, just compare him to us. So first of all, we've got a Kirk from the old Playmates line. Ooh, Khan's a good couple of centimetres taller than him. Well, not a couple of centimetres, you know what I mean. It'd be a couple of centimetres if these were scaled correctly. But yeah, Khan's a little bit thinner. So I think maybe they've gone for a more sort of realistic body proportion with these ones, especially considering with that Ricardo Montalban chest, that'd have been a lot. If Kirk looks like that, Khan would have been like out here, wouldn't he? I'd have had to like bring it up here so you can see it. So a little bit thicker there, a little bit less in terms of the paint applications, a lot less glossy. In terms of articulation, we didn't have the swivel joints. We didn't have the ankle joints. We didn't have the wrist. The way this has got the same range of movement as the new Khan figure. But if you look, it's a lot more obvious in the old one how it's incorporated. And this one, I think, is better for display purposes. So yeah, they seem to have taken what worked with the old ones, but modernized it a little bit. And then finally, just a bit of a silly comparison, if I'm being honest. But this is the McFarlane Captain Kirk that they did a few years ago. Not the best likeness to William Shatner, but more sort of realistic proportions, lots of movement and everything there. Trousers are very flared. Obviously, massive amount bigger. I suppose you could do like that episode of the animated series, like you'd have This is Kirk 2, and Khan's like, oh no, they made a bigger Kirk. So yeah, so there we go. That's the new Playmates Wrath of Khan figure. Quite soft plastic to the feel, actually. That might surprise you compared to these old ones. Overall, for the money, and, I'm not kidding anyone here, toys are not cheap these days. And I'm looking at it from a geeky adult collecting them rather than buying these for your kids. Yeah, you could buy them for your kids. They're reasonably competitively priced compared to sort of younger children's toys. How much play they're actually going to get out of these, I suppose, depends on how familiar with Star Trek they are and how willing they are to come up with their own Star Trek stories. I'm not sure. As a collector's piece for adult collectors, obviously you can get much more detailed ones. Obviously you can build your own, paint your own if you want to see that. Check out the sister channel with Elliot's Retrek Modelling Studios. I don't have that level of skill or patience. So I'm happy with these, to be honest. I'm not sure I'm going to collect all of them, but for what it is, I think that's a pretty cool action figure. So anyway, that's my take on Khan, and I might come back with some more depending on what I can find. But for now, anyway, thank you very much for watching, and play with your toys. Don't leave them in the packaging.